Hey everybody, it's Eric from EPAutos.com, your libertarian car guy. I just wanted to talk about something that I hardly have the words for. It's so cognitively dissonant, it's so insolent, it's just so effronterous and astounding, and I'm running out of adjectives for it. What is it? Well, you may have caught Trump's press conference yesterday, at which he lauded Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, the greatest drug-pushing profiteer in the history of this country, as a great businessman, which I guess is true in the sense that he leveraged the federal government to offload enormous quantities of his loathsome drugs, his so-called vaccines, that people were effectively forced to take at pain of loss of employment, loss of career, loss of status if they were in the military, potentially getting locked up. And we came this close, let's not forget, to actually locking people up, putting them into camps, excluding them from society, denying them medical treatment that they needed if they refused the jabs. You know, it's very interesting to me. We hear talk about drug pushers all the time, particularly from the right. Trump doesn't like drug pushers. Well, the truth of the matter is that it is only the federal government that has the power to push drugs on anybody. Yeah, there are freelance drug dealers, guys who sell pot, coke, fentanyl, you name it, whatever. But I've never heard of anybody being pushed, that is forced, to take those drugs. They're offered. You can take them if you want to. And again, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just pointing out the fact that only the government has the legal power to coerce, to force people to take drugs. And that's exactly what happened during the so-called pandemic. And the greatest single profiteer of this was Pfizer. And that loathsome cretin, Albert Bourla, who was even worse in many ways than Dr. Fauci. And neither of these two clowns have been indicted. And now we've got Trump lauding Bourla, standing there beside him, calling him a great businessman, wonderful guy. And by the way, to the credit of the crowd that was there, they booed uproariously, at which point, Trump just basically doubled down. And now, we no longer have the option of giving Trump the benefit of the doubt. I remember it was probably a month, maybe 2 months ago. I saw something that had been posted by John Rich. You may be familiar with John Rich. He's the big country star. Anyway, he was talking about a sit-down that he had with Trump. He's a big pro-Trump guy. And Trump said, "Why do they boo me whenever I talk about the vaccines?" And Rich said, "Well, Mr. President," he was very polite, but he was very firm, and he said, "Look, people have been injured by these things, and they deeply resent it, and they resent a lot of other things too." I'm paraphrasing what he said. And Trump said, I didn't know that. He didn't know that. It's just not possible to believe that. He outright basically shat in Rich's face. It was just an effronterous lie, the sort of thing that Trump excels at. And proof positive of that is yesterday's press conference where he's touting and lauding Albert freaking Bourla, who, by the way, just got some sort of a sweetheart deal. Another one with the federal government that's going to redound to the great profit of Pfizer and Bourla. It's beyond despicable. And I have friends who are in the Q/devolution world who look at this as yet another example of whatever they call it, 55D chess, some sort of an op. They have all these quasi sort of military terms that they use, implying that there's just some really elaborate agenda at work here, and Trump is simply just kind of slow walking the reveal. He's letting the normies see piece at a time just how bad things are. Well, Trump is really bad. It's inexcusable. Of a piece with all the other things that he's been doing lately, including doing everything he can to make sure that whatever was going on with Epstein is withheld from the public. But don't worry, we've got the files on Amelia Earhart. We're going to finally find out what Amelia Earhart was up to 90 years ago. Oy vey, it just never ends. And of course, we've now got to funnel more money to Ukraine. We've got to have real ID. We've got to have a surveillance state imposed on us by the tech bros via Palantir. Did any of you vote for that? Who voted for Trump? I sure didn't. I deeply have buyer's remorse. I deeply regret having voted for him, and that's not to say that Camel Toe Harris would have been any better. She would have been worse in a lot of ways, except for one, which is that all of the people who are now rationalizing and equivocating and coming up with just cultish ways of trying to defend Trump for his inexcusable actions would at least have sounded the alarm and would have been pointing out, if Kamala Harris had been pushing drugs, if Kamala Harris had been trying to impose a surveillance state, pushing Real ID, there would have been pushback from the people who support Trump. But they think, oh, it's our guy, it's wonderful, yeah, very good, oh, wonderful. I don't know, I'm just kind of fired up today. I think it's depressing and it's infuriating at the same time, and it just seems like we're headed to a very bad place at the end of a dead-end street. More up at epautos.com, the web's best libertarian gearhead site. Thanks as always for listening, and we will have more for you again soon.